Hi everyone. So this week we are wrapping up really the material for the whole year, because next week will sort of be a review of these last couple of sections. So this is the last week of new information, and we are learning about writing equations of circles. And we're given this standard form equation for circles. So we have a couple different variables. Obviously, we have our x and our y. The x and the y will be present in every single equation of a circle. The ones that change are the h, the k, and the r. And these all represent different things, right? So if I draw my circle here, here's my center. I'm going to draw a little radius. Okay, so the point hk represents the center of our circle. So HK is the point, is the center. The R is the radius. So R is taking the center of the circle and then just connecting it to any point along the outer edge of this circle here. And then we're going to keep it squared, right? So when we have say our radius is 3, it's going to be written in our final equation as 9 because we're taking 3 squared. So let's do a couple problems, a couple examples of different types of equations here. So it says, write the equation of a circle whose center is -3, 4, and it has a radius of 5. So we have our point here, we have the -3, 4. We're going to just use this template as the standard form of our equation, right? So I'm going to have x minus h, right? And h is the x value of our center. So we're going to do x minus -3. Notice I wrote a double negative there because it's a -3. Then we square it. And then we're going to add. And then we'll do y minus k, which is the y value of our center. So -4 here. And we square that. And then it says we have a radius of 5. So we set that equal to our radius squared. Set it equal to 5 squared. We're not done. We want to clean this up and try to get this into the simplest terms possible. Anytime I have my double negative, I'm just going to write this as x plus 3 squared. The y minus 4 can stay as it is, that's fine. And then we're just going to multiply out. 5 squared will do 25. And that's our final answer. So this part really isn't that bad. We're just taking whatever information is given to us and we're plugging in the appropriate values for the variables given to us up here. And we're just kind of simplifying. We're not going any further than this though. This is our final answer. We don't have to FOIL. We don't have to do anything crazy. This is going to end up being our final answer here. Okay, so then let's move on to another type of question. So now we're given a graph. We're not given the center and the radius written out for us. We're given the graph, and we want to write the equation of the circle. So again, our standard form equation is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals our radius squared. So we need to know what h and k are, right? We need to know the center, and we need to know the radius. Okay, so it's kind of a crappy graph. It's a bad circle I drew. I'm doing the best I can with what you have. But if I count, right, my center is going to be at 1, 2, 3, 4, comma, -2. Okay, so I'm just finding this information before I even write my equation. And then I want to find the radius. So the radius, we're taking the center. We're going to one of these points. We're either going up to the top, we can go over to the right, the bottom, the left, any of those will work, and we're just going to count, right? So I went up 1, 2, 3, 4. So our radius is 4. Once I have that information, again, we're just going to plug it into our equation for the standard form, right? So our center, we would say x minus our h value, x minus 4 squared, okay? Then we plus y minus our k value, y minus -2 squared, is equal to our radius squared, equal to 4 squared. And again, we just want to clean this up a little bit. We'd have x minus 4 squared plus y plus 2 squared, and that's going to equal 16. And that's my final answer again, okay? So we're not, again, it's not too bad. You just need to be able to figure out the center and the radius and be able to plug those in appropriately. Where it starts to be a little bit more work is when I'm not actually given the radius either outright or given it to in a graph. When I'm given just the center and a point on the circle. Remember, if I have my center here, and just some random point, say it's down here, right? This is going to be my radius. So to find the distance between those 2 points, or to find the radius of those 2 points, I have to find the distance, right? I have to use the distance formula, which I know you guys hate. I know you guys are probably rolling your eyes, but we have to use the distance formula. So our distance formula here is as follows. We have x2 minus x1. We're going to square that. Then we're going to add y2 minus y1 and square that, okay? So if we keep going, right, if we plug in our center and our radius here, so we're going to say our radius, not our radius, our other point, radius equals, we can plug this in. It doesn't necessarily matter which one you take as x1 and x2, as long as if you take this as x1, you need to take this as y1, or if you take this as x1, this has to be y1. I'm just going to do it as this is x2, this is x1, so we would do 4 minus 1 squared plus 2 minus 2 squared, and then keep going. So we have r equals 4 minus 1 is, 3. Then we have to square that. 2 minus 2 is 0, and when we square it, it's 0. So really, I just have the square root of 3 squared, which is the square root of 9, which just gives me 3. So I had to use my distance formula in order to figure out my radius. So my radius is 3. My center, it was already given to me as 1, 2, right? So to write my equation, I'm going to say x minus 1 squared plus y minus 2 squared is equal to 3 squared, right? And 3 squared is going to give us 9. So again, this one is a little bit longer, but again, it's not that hard. It's just being able to use your distance formula and applying it to this type of problem. And really, we just have one other type of problem we'll see in this section, which is taking an equation and then graphing it. Which again, as long as we know our rules, it's really not too bad. So it says graph the equation. It gives us our equation here. So remember that the equation for standard form was x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So if I end up with a plus sign on the 2 and a plus sign on the 6, that means somehow I changed my negative to a positive. That means my h and my k must have ended up being negative in the coordinate, right? Like over here on this first example, we had a double negative, and that's how we got a plus sign in our final answer. And that negative came from a -2 that was given to us in our point. So when I'm taking the information out of this equation and I see a plus sign, I'm actually bringing out a -2 and I'm bringing out a -6. So this is my center. It's going to be a -2 and a -6. And then our radius, remember, our radius is always squared. So whatever this number is, I have to take the square root of it to find my radius. And the square root of 25 is just going to be 5. So that's pretty easy enough, right? Now we're going to graph that. So we're going to go to -2, -6. So we're right around here for our center point here. Okay, so we got the center. Now we have a radius of 5. I'm going to use that radius. I'm going to go up the y-axis 5. I'm going to go down the y-axis 5. And then I'm going to go right on the x-axis and left on the x-axis. So I'm going to plot 4 more points using my radius by counting along the x and the y-axis. So I'm going to put one right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to put one right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, one here. Okay, and then I'm going to connect, kind of, without trying to make it look like a football. And I missed one, but it's not perfect, but you have the idea. Just go up into the up, left, bottom, and right whenever you have your radius. And that does it for this section. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to email me. But other than that, these are really all the questions or the different types of questions that you guys will see in this section.